Hello, I'm Death's Arrow, and this is a WoT I'm Thinking Debrief for the week of April 14th, 2013. In the last 8.5 test server debrief, I looked specifically at the much anticipated Leopard 1. There are a few other new tanks coming in the patch, as well as a new map. Looking at the revised German tech tree, the new medium line will branch off of the Panzer 3-4 to the new VK3001D, which leads to the Leopard 1. Alternatively, the new line can be reached from the VK2801, which is no longer a dead end. As expected, the VK3002DB, now named VK3002D, leads to the Indien-Panzer, and most veteran players will be starting from the 3002D. 81,100 experience is required to unlock the Indien-Panzer from the 3002D. The Tier 8 Indien-Panzer was a post-war design that was part of a competition to create a medium tank for the Indian Army. The turret has some similarities with the Lowe's turret, but that's where the comparisons end. The tank has good mobility, although acceleration is a bit on the slow side, and it does take a while to reach the 50 km/h top speed. The transmission is in the rear, so frontal shots will not set this tank on fire. The top gun is the 9cm Quick 54 and is very reminiscent of the 90mm French guns. I believe this is because the Quick 54 was a French design. The gun has good penetration with lower damage potential, a decent rate of fire, and long aim time. A vertical stabilizer and enhanced gun laying drive are highly recommended pieces of equipment. Like all post-war German tank designs soon to be in game, the Indien-Panzer has decent gun depression, allowing for hull-down tactics. Unlike the Leopard 1 though, the Indien-Panzer's turret has a mantlet that can bounce shots. The hull armor, while significantly sloped, is fairly weak at 90mm. It was difficult to test the armor's effectiveness on the test server due to the proliferation of premium rounds as well as the difficulty of getting typical Tier 8 battles. I'm looking forward to playing the Indien-Panzer on the live server, as the tank was rather effective in the one Tier 8 battle I saw on the test server. Following the Indien-Panzer is the Tier 9 Leopard Prototype A, designed by Porsche in the late 1950s, with 26 tanks completed for testing in the early 1960s, and is the prototype for the Leopard 1. While the tank looks a little different from the Leopard 1, it's essentially the same tank in game. Mobility and speed are equivalent, along with the same armor profile. The Prototype A has slightly lower view range and less hit points. The Prototype A mounts the 105mm L7A1, while the Leopard 1 mounts the L7A3. The L7A1 has a lower rate of fire, lower accuracy, and longer aim time than the L7A3. That said, the gun is very similar to the L7A3, with the reduced rate of fire being the most noticeable difference. While the Leopard 1 fires once every 7 seconds, the Prototype A fires every 11 seconds. This is a pretty significant decrease and has a big impact on the effectiveness of the tank. I found the Prototype A to be less effective than the Leopard 1. Of course, I played the tank out of order and primarily faced Tier 10 tanks on the test server. Lack of armor is still an issue with the Prototype A, and it remains to be seen how this tank will perform on the live server. The other new German tank that I took a brief look at is the Tier 7 Aufklarerpanzer Panther, typically called the Recon Panther. The intent of this tank was to utilize the Panther chassis as a scout platform. The tank looks very odd with a relatively small turret on a huge chassis. With only a small handful of matches played due to the low population on the test server, I don't have a lot to say about this tank. It does mount the 7.5cm Kanish gun, which is an excellent sniping gun capable of penetrating higher tiered tanks. Mobility seems good, although a bit sluggish for a scout tank. Armor is essentially non-existent against the tanks I faced on the test server, which were primarily Tier 10s. The new map included in the 8.5 patch named Pearl River was difficult to get a look at in actual battle conditions. I only saw the map twice in 60 battles. This map will be the second Asian theme map in the game, although Dragon Ridge is out of rotation again for rebalancing. Neither of the matches I had on Pearl River were particularly impressive, but show off enough of the map to get some general ideas on how it will play. The first replay is in the Leopard Prototype A, and I'm starting from the western base. The base is pretty wide open, and defense of the cap is best done from the hills to the west, which is the direction I'll be heading in as the match gets underway. The river generally appears to be shallow, which allows for crossings pretty much anywhere. There are locations marked with stones which I assume would be proper fording locations. The stones will slow down tanks but not stop them if you need to cross over them. There's quite a bit of soft cover along the southern end of the map, which provides an advantage if the enemy decides to push right through the middle. There are some rather long lanes of fire available across the middle of the map, which will benefit tanks with accurate guns. The southern end of the map has some constrained trails further along if hard cover is needed. The second replay is in the Indien-Panzer, and I'm starting from the eastern base. I've decided to explore the northern route in this battle, which appears to be a good shortcut between the bases. RD will likely be hard-pressed to find locations to get shots on this area. The route is fairly constrained, and I think there will be some pretty intense tank battles in this area. Continuing around to the river provides shots of the enemy defenders overlooking the cap. The bridge pillars and rocks here provide good hard cover for peekaboom sniping. Pushing the enemy base without clearing the defenders will be a disaster, as I mentioned in the previous replay that there's no cover on the cap. I'm not certain yet how this map will play. It's open in the south, which will promote camping. The northern route is constrained and generally already safe, which likely makes it the key route to control the map. We'll have to wait and see how it plays on the live server once the player base has a chance to figure it out. With the live server coming out on Tuesday, April 23rd, this wraps up my 8.5 test server coverage. Thank you for watching this WoT I'm Thinking debrief. Stay tuned for more content soon.
Ha ha ha.